It's our life. If you ride around every 10 blocks, you will see a kid with a ball in the park.
You grow up playing football. That's the first ball you get when you're a kid.
Is a way out for the kids in our community to get a better life.
I knew I was good enough to play in the NFL at a young age.
I coached Duke Johnson,
Willis McGahee,
Frank Gore,
Dalvin Cook,
Teddy Bridgewater,
Amari Cooper,
Antonio Brown. Everybody done played in the Mecca.
There's no other stadium that has as many NFL pros that played there.
It's a community stadium. They catch the bus to get here.
It's where every kid dreams of playing.
You're just looking up and you see both stands packed. There's no other feeling like it.
Neighborhoods and close proximity is what fuels a rivalry.
Those are your brothers that's on the other side of those colors.
It's like it's been a rivalry going on since our grandparents.
Traz Powell is the only home that we had.
Electricity, the atmosphere, everything about it is mythical on Friday night.
When the lights cut on, it's showtime.
Miami was not immune to the realities of segregation.
Race. That was all that was evident and prevalent at that time.
Although the order came down in 1954, Miami public schools remained largely segregated well into the 70s.
Nathaniel Traz Powell set a certain standard that we all try to live up to.
He was the first African American to score a touchdown in the Orange Bowl. He is a legendary coach.
What Nate did was help create the scene for black football.
You're in the hotbed of recruiting talent in the entire country. It's time to make sure the talent stays home.
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be taking my talent to the University of Miami.
Just like at Madison Square Garden, the Mecca of high school football.
You want the country to know your name? Just perform at Traz.
A lot of stars come to our game.
You can see a Trick Daddy, you can see a Rick Ross. And just seeing the bands up there rocking, man, I'm getting the chills right now. That's Traz Powell right there.
I was a cheerleader. When you knew you were coming to Traz Powell, you know you had to bring your game face.
It wouldn't be a game at Traz if we didn't hear Mr. Wilcox's voice.
He's like the Howard Cosell of high school football.
he tells the story.
His voice vibrates deep in your soul.
He named it the Mecca.
I couldn't have done this by myself.
I could be here for days sitting in this chair telling you about all the great players that played at Traz Powell Stadium.
Standing in front of this mural right now, it's a humbling experience.
When you think of high school sports, we call it the Mecca, but many of us call it home.
I'm thankful and I'm blessed that it happened to someone like me.
Hey, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm sitting over here smiling because I saw the trailer again, and it's been really wonderful to watch. Welcome to Just Talking Business. Once again, I am Stephanie Van Barken. I'm a small business owner. So today we're talking to yet another creative. Y'all know I have a soft spot for creatives. Primarily because I don't think people understand that this is also business too. It's a creative medium, but it's also creativity. The young man that we are talking to is the writer, director, and producer of the piece you just saw. This is real, as the film folk call it, that you just saw, and it will be showing this Saturday at the Lyric Theater. So without further ado, let me bring him on. Hi, Mr. Guerrier. Did I say that right? No, I didn't. Guerrier.
Guerrier.
Guerrier. I apologize. I tried to ask you before.
It rhymes with Perrier to make it easy.
I try to be very, I try to honor people's names and say them correctly. So I do apologize. I do apologize.
That's okay.
How are you today, Nicanson?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Very good. Very good. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Let's start with, who are you and what do you do?
I am Nicanson Guerrier. I am a film producer, director, and writer for TV and film.
Okay. And you actually have this is really your third project.
Yes, this is my third movie. Actually, my fourth.
Really?
My fourth movie. My first one, Know Thy Enemy. That's something that Lionsgate picked up, and I wrote that back in 2009. Then I had to flee. the infamous USA flea market. I also I dabbled in horror during the pandemic and wrote a horror film, and it's called Call Time. And I think that's available on some platform out there. So this is my fourth film, but my first documentary.
Okay, very cool. Now I did a little research on you, and since you brought up that genre, the only one I didn't know about was the horror film, Lionsgate. Your first screenplay, you wrote a project called Know Thy Enemy that was picked up by Lionsgate, which is really very impressive in the film world. How did that come about?
That came about with me just growing up in with friends that were rappers, right? So they were they were rapping at the time, and they decided to go on a tour. And I decided, you know what, I'm not doing nothing this summer. I just graduated, so I went on the tour with them. I'm not musically inclined at all. I don't know how to make a beat. I don't know how to hold a beat. I don't know anything whatsoever. So I decided, instead of me just sitting around doing nothing, let me just write a movie loosely based on, you know, what is going through and what I'm seeing during this tour. So I wrote it in a composition notebook. Got with some, yeah.
That's a little bit different from what they typically do.
And then before transferring over to an actual PC at the time, but then I got with some friends. We shot the film. Then got an agent, and then surprisingly enough, like Lionsgate bought it. I was surprised. Because I mean, I was just writing the movie, not necessarily to be a filmmaker, but just to be a part of something. I bought a book called How to Write Screenplays That Sell, and then I wrote the screenplays that sold. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this.
to what I'm supposed to be doing here.
Yeah. So then I switched majors. At the time, I was going to Miami-Dade to be a math teacher.
Wow.
Yes, I'm really good at math.
What a change.
Huge change. Yes, I was like, different industry. I'm like, I saw different things on tour. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This is a little bit more exciting, a little bit more creative. And then so I switched majors and went to into film from there.
So, I mean, when you do a project, do you already have a distribution deal in place? Or if not, how do you make yourself more marketable by filming the project first and then going out to the distribution?
I actually just film it first. Because just going to get the distribution deal, I think that sometimes can be tough. Is a very much of a who you have to know type business, and a lot of that time you have to be in LA to make that make sense. So being in a smaller market like Miami, you have to really just do it yourself. I see. So I decided to just go ahead and produce it myself, and then build it where I create the market. And then that way the distribution just becomes so much easier. It just becomes actually part of the process. Okay.
Well, and you know, this show is about the pivot, and I don't think, you know, having been around it a little bit, I don't think anybody has to pivot as much as those in the film industry. I mean, just, you know, if you just think about, you know, at the time there is no work or the fundability of a project, the pandemic threw everybody for a loop, and now I think there are two industries or two unions that are striking. Yes. How have you had to, in building your business, because I know you have your own production company, how have you had to create an emergency plan that would ward against those types of potential problems?
Yeah. Well, you have to have multiple streams of income, or just streams of what you're doing first and foremost. So yeah, I am in film, but I also have a construction license in the state of Virginia. So that way I can just make sure that if anything ever falls through, you just have a backup plan. Not necessarily a backup plan, but just have contingencies in place to make everything make sense. Okay. So, but even with that, furthermore, you can I decided to stay local, you know, so that's why you got these projects and you got these movies, because if the world is shut down, your neighborhood isn't, you know, so I can at least tell that story and go market to those people. And that's how it started from the beginning. And that's how it even with the barter system with the flea, like you sold the people in your neighborhood. So that's why these stories are a little bit more marketable, because they're near and dear to the people that are here, or at least just have been to them. And then hopefully that, that love and that word of mouth can spread, it's nationally. But it starts at home.
So now let's talk about the Flea. I saw the Flea. I was telling you right before this. I was at the American Black Film Festival, and it was very funny. It was a very funny movie story. But I think the thing I was most shocked by is that you literally figured out a story coming out of the flea market. For those of us in Miami, we've all been to the flea market, and who the funk. So that movie, I think, it cost you $14,000 to shoot in 8 days, which is highly impressive. Tell us a little bit about, the process of securing funding for a project like that. Was it difficult? How quickly were you able to turn that around? And what if someone wanted to do a movie as well? What sources would you say they should tap into?
Yeah. Okay. So as far as the Flea, the process was a longer process. The filming of it was 8 days, but the process of it took actually longer because it started off with just me writing the script and me shopping it to a different production company, and they actually had the script for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Just didn't produce it.
Oh, so you at basically what's it called when you kind of give them the rights for
I optioned it, yeah.
Optioned it for 2 years, and then they gave it back to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I took it back. I took it back.
I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. So, and at the time I wasn't a director. I was just focusing on writing. So I did give them the script, and then they didn't necessarily move on it. So because of that, I took it upon myself to decide that this story still needed to be done, and it needed to be done properly. So that's how I actually got into directing. And then once I realized I wanted it to get it done, I just started casting immediately, right? I started casting immediately, and then we just started rehearsing with no funding. So I'm casting, I'm rehearsing with no funding. We actually are rehearsing at the flea market at the time. Wow. So that way, because a lot of the actors never actually been to a flea market, and most notably, they never been to that one.
What?
Yes.
That's bizarre. Are they from Miami?
Some of them are from Broward. So I was thinking the same thing. But it's funny because the flea market is no longer there. But the first day we had rehearsal, like there was like a incident, like a huge incident. So it was kind of just weird. We walked into like just the biggest, and I was just like, "Welcome to Miami," like this.
I say that all the time. Please come back. Please
yes. Come back. I was like, "How do you live here?" I'm like, "I love it here." So
it's never boring. I tell you that all the time. It's never boring.
Just keep your head on the swivel, but it's never boring. So I didn't have the money, but I did act like I did. I moved forward with the movie. I casted, I did rehearsals, I crewed up. And then like, honestly, a week before the movie, Wells Fargo loan got approved.
Whoa.
Yes.
Just so hard. They give loans for movies now?
They give loans for it was just personal.
Okay,
right?
Hold on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it was just personal, so they didn't ask too much questions.
Right. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. I take it, right? And then it went through, and I was just like, I'm in business. And then, I got the loan, and then something happened though, because at the time a hurricane came through.
Oh, yeah, that's.
And then shut it down, right? So then the first thing I did after the hurricane passed, I went to the flea market to make sure it was still standing, because it was just an old building at the time, and it was still standing. And then I was like, okay, God, we're going to do this with the loan that I just got. The hurricane has passed through, and then we started filming.
Okay. And like when you decide to take on that debt, because that is a debt, but it is an investment in what you're trying to do, but you don't already have distribution, what's the intention? Are you looking to break even? Are you looking for it to be your business card? What were you thinking? Or just trying to get the creative out of your head and onto celluloid?
Yeah. Being that the budget was so low, my thinking is to sell it and, of course, make a profit on it. And then, of course, when you're doing projects like this, and as a producer and director now, like at some point, you just have to take a chance and bet on yourself, especially if you want others to do so. So this was like my very, like, it was a modest investment in a sense. So that wasn't going to, if I didn't make it back, it wasn't going to break the bank or anything like that. So it was one of those modest investments that just taught me how to believe in me and trust myself. And that's what that was.
Okay.
And
then
then
you got it in the American Black Film Festival, so that's impressive.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody getting this stuff in the American Black Film Festival, so that's very impressive. So okay, let's talk about this project. I when your PR executive sent it to me, I was highly impressed. What I talked about with her and right before you as well. What has been interesting in watching these two films is, it's sort of a hyper local story, but definitely can reach a national audience just based on the subject matter. Were you thinking about that when you created this, or was it more a passion project?
No, I was thinking to sell it to the biggest market possible. So yeah, I had to put passion in it because I'm a local and I love the stadium. I've been to the stadium, have friends, that are still currently working there. But I wanted to sell it to the biggest market, and I understood that it could do that because Miami is the biggest market to me in the world. I think everyone in the world looks at Miami. Everyone wants to come here. Everyone wants to be part of it. Everyone wants to, even if you go somewhere else, like a lot of our players they play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They play for the New York Giants. They play for the San Diego Chargers. So they take Miami with them to those different places. So that's why I wanted to make sure I highlighted that. So that way now you may be a San Diego Chargers fan. And now this one player now makes you look at Miami, makes you look at this documentary. And then now I have a new fan, a new audience.
So that was the plan in terms of distribution. You notice I'm asking a lot about distribution. As I mentioned, this is going to appear at the Historic Lyric Theater this Saturday. Everybody check it out. I sent it out in my newsletter, by the way. I want everybody to know everything about it. I'll be there as well. But, besides that, now what? What's the next plan to really get it to that national market?
Well, there's a couple steps with this because this is such a local story, and because the school board actually owns the stadium, it's connected with Dade County schools. Okay. So right now, I personally think every student in South Florida, the Tri-County area, should watch this movie. So so next step, let's create a field trip so that way every kid can be inspired, can be touched, can understand their story because this is their story. Most notably, of course, Miami-Dade County, because that's where the stadium is. And then from there, so it can go through that market, and it can get very lucrative if it does that in a sense, because it's still a film and it still can be monetized. And we have the 3rd, 6th, and 11th largest school districts in the Tri-County area. So that's a lot of kids, right?
That's a lot of kids.
So and then from there, so there's so much, and there's different angles of it. After that, film festivals, of course, so that way I can go ahead and get it out there to more of a national film market. So that way I can go ahead and get, the right distribution eyes on it. But I actually have a lot of people, a lot of great people from different production companies and different, different distribution companies attending the screening. So that's part of the process as well. So you invite everybody that you invite the fans, but you also invite the people that can buy it. So people that can buy it will be in the building. Honestly, if I can announce that this is sold and will live on this network that night,
that'll be awesome.
Great announcement. So I am pushing for that because, like I said, but at the same time, it's all about still maximizing this and getting the most out of it and getting it to the best place for it to live. So not necessarily all about the money, but more money does help too.
I know, never mad at making money. But what I am glad, and I want to make sure our audience is paying attention to, film, again, is very creative, and I think a lot of folks in the market think it's pretty, it's cute, but there's a business and a science behind this, and that as a producer, writer, director, you've had to really start to learn and understand that. Was that something you learned at the beginning, or through hard knocks and through doing 4 films, having to learn how to really market yourself in that way?
Oh, definitely through hard knocks, right? This business, you can go to school for it, but they they actually appreciate it more when you actually go through the hard knocks and you have the experience. A lot of people think, you see the blockbuster films, but you don't see the 100 films that studio put out that didn't make any money. And that blockbuster film just has to cover that, that hole for them. So granted, I get to do it at a smaller scale for now. So that way I don't have to make, those bankruptcy decisions. But it's for sure just a business aspect of it. And just the hard knocks, like my first film, I had to learn about contracts, which I had nothing, I didn't know anything about that, about signing the wrong contracts, because you can't do that. You're eager to put it out there, you just don't know. So for sure. And even like the most recent film, like the horror film, I had to understand about credits and titles and how, like I wrote the film and someone can add an extra A at the end of the sentence, and now they're a writer too, so it's very much big business. Do this. So I think that reading like I said, my initial introduction into this business was how to write screenplays that sell. So it taught me the business part. So it taught me the selling part. Granted, like I said, I still had to go through some things to understand how to actually make the money back. And now I understand that part.
So now, how has, as most people know who are paying any attention at all, how has the strike impacted your movement as a producer trying to distribute this film and as a creative in general?
Well, I'm not sure how it directly, because like I remember like during ABFF this past year, I made some contact with some people that can actually be great distributors for the film. And then I think the strike happened, and then we kind of just lost contact. So I'm not sure if that was a direct correlation or relation to the strike, but that did happen. But after that, the strike doesn't necessarily affect me too much, because I think I'm so far away from LA, just even mentally, in the sense where I want to show you that I can make this movie myself. Like I find pride in that, to produce and direct these movies that's still on the same level as your blockbuster films, because I've, in between making my own films, I work on a lot of TV shows, a lot of movie sets, as production assistants, coordinators, ADs, whatever, just to learn, just to be around. So I've been around. I actually went through every department, learned every position. Now I can actually do that on my own set and understand that, we were being very wasteful. That I can go ahead and remove this whole department, still get it done. Like just to go back to the flea, how I chose the boots is the ones that I didn't have to do art direction for.
Right.
So like the ones that I really just look good on camera.
Right.
Things like that. As far as
budget, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, now I am going to delve a little bit, even though this is a business discussion. I am going to delve a little bit into the creative with regards to those last projects. How did you see that story? When did you see that story, and how did you see that story? You remember where you were?
Yes.
Were involved? Like,
so
what questions you were asking?
Yeah, I was actually working at Traz Powell Stadium at the time as a videographer. So I was, of course, like in between films. I think I haven't done a movie or work on a set in a very long time, and I was just trying to still be behind the camera and just make just a little bit of money in the meantime. So I'm there one day and I'm recording the game, and I'm just like honestly reevaluating life, right? Because I'm like,
do I really want to do this?
Yeah, how did I get here? Like I just had a movie out that sold to Lionsgate, and then now I'm kind of doing this videographer stuff. I'm like, this is a step backwards, right? So I'm
it's
like,
a self-esteem challenge for sure.
Yes. So I'm like not cursing the heavens, but I'm looking at the heavens like, what's up, right? And then and if you know anything about of course, like Miami in general in August and September, but when you're at the stadium, you notice there's a ton of weather delays. It's always raining, and there's a ton of lightning strikes. And if you have a lightning strike within certain miles of a stadium with high school kids, you have to postpone the game. So lightning strike happens, it starts to rain, and they have to postpone the game. And I'm like furious, because I'm just like, now I have to be here an extra hour, whatever. The people in the stands start to panic. And then Mr. Wilcox starts talking, and he's just like, and he calms everyone down.
Nice.
Even the rain slowed down, right? He just everyone down.
Jesus.
And he's just like, he tells them what to do, and he's like, just exit this, and they just do it in the calmest fashion. And I'm like, and I look over at him, and I'm just like, that's what I'm doing here. Like, you know, like the power in that voice, like he controlled that whole situation. And then it got me thinking, I've been listening to this guy since I was in high school. I walk around saying one of his most famous sayings, you know, to say no to drugs, yes to education, like to everyone for like years. So that was that epiphany. That was that moment. That was like, this is what I'm doing here. And I got like really excited, and I was just like, okay, let me keep this to myself. And then I went home and did a ton of research to see if there was any other movie or documentary out already like this. And I didn't find any. And then when I didn't find any, I was just like, okay, let's go.
This is awesome. Yeah. Were you able to get some of the people who are in the NFL now?
Yeah. Well, yes.
Oh,
so I did get, I got Teddy Bridgewater. He's in it.
Okay.
And of course, I'm not sure if he's still a current Miami Dolphin, but Miami Dolphin at the time, where we interviewed him. So Teddy Bridgewater, local kid, of course, Miami Northwestern. So I do have some current NFL players and some former NFL players in the documentary.
So what do you think will be, so in the pandemic, and I think you saw this as well, there's been a huge shift from screen to streaming, which has been both wonderful in the sense that I think it's opened up opportunity for smaller filmmakers. But there's so much content that, you know, it's kind of hard to find. It's insane, like, you know, just so much stuff. Have you found it for you to be easier to make those connections? And do you think, what's the future? Like, what do you envision the future of this industry being with such a shift in how things are going?
The future of the industry, I think, is going to shift from LA for sure.
I believe.
I think LA is just, I think it's time for a change. I'm not sure if New York is going to be that hub. I like it to be Miami. I like it to be South Florida. I think a lot
right now it's Atlanta.
Well,
I
think Atlanta has this because Atlanta also has this running. We'll always do a lot of studio stuff, and there's so much space and all that stuff. But it's because like Miami just has so much just uncharted stories and uncharted. So it's just something new, something fresh, and that's just what that is. You know, a little bit of sunshine doesn't hurt.
And the weather, it's actually better for sure.
So I think it's better. The future, it's kind of hard to say because streaming, I'm not sure how long that's going to, because it's just oversaturated right now. You know, so I'm not sure how the cable platforms. I would like to see, you know, the movie theaters return. You know, I would like Friday and Saturday night dates to return. You know, so I think the nostalgia of that needs to come back. I like to see drive-thrus return.
Man, that which was actually a big thing during the pandemic. Remember?
Yeah, that was exactly. Yeah,
it was a big thing during the pandemic, and as soon as people could get out again, that just dropped. And I thought that was sad. I agree. Because you gave them the option, and then now there's like, well, I have the option, I don't want it anymore. So that's what that was, you know. And when you took away the option, they wanted that. So I agree.
Yeah, so I think the future is just it's just better stories too. I think just, you know, the same stories have been told, the same actors, same actresses, the same kind of narrative. So I think this particular movie can help propel us into that realm of just now we control our own narratives.
Right.
You know, and in particular with this movie, I made sure there's no cursing, there's no like, you know, derogatory anything. No one's looked at in a bad light, and it's people who look like us, and it's not necessarily about that, but they look beautiful, you know? So I think just changing the shift of what we can talk about and being proud of it. So.
And I agree with that. I think having opened up the market for smaller filmmakers, you know, there are some stories that are very powerful that probably would have never seen a screen that would keep trying to regurgitate the same story. So it's been fun from that perspective of just getting some really good content. So I think that will fit in. I'm sort of a documentary watcher. I love documentaries. I think I love stuff. So I learn stuff when I watch it. I feel smart. So well, and we had a question. Is this thing live? Yes, it is live. So I wanted to let everybody know that it's live. But I do want to find out, how can we get in touch with you? First of all, tell us a little bit about, before you tell us how to get in touch with you, about the showing on Saturday.
The showing on Saturday, just to start off, is already sold out, just to let everyone know. Because no, but you got a ticket, of course.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it was a free event, so I just want to just test it for the community. I want them to give feedback, because like it's their story, you know. I want them to tell me that, you know, maybe you need to add this, maybe you need to do this. Like, maybe I'm not saying I will listen, but I would just like to know that way I could just take the notes and just make a better project before it just goes out there. Because the last thing I need is Miami to come back and be like, "Hey, you didn't do this right."
Right.
I made it for them, you know. So
so would there be panel discussions afterwards, or that, as you were saying, feedback, you will be, you know, talking to the audience to get feedback? Is that how that setup's going to be, or later on, ask for surveys later?
No, after the film, there will be a panel discussion with myself, the voice, Mr. Wilcox, Dr. Gallen, Superintendent, Dr. Gallen, who else? Moderated by Kay Fox. And we actually have a very special invite. The daughter of Traz Powell himself.
Nice.
Yes, Gail Powell Johnson will be part of the panel. And I thought that would be just so fitting and so amazing that she was part of this, because, and she's the only child. So that's kind of, you know, it means even more. So.
And by the way, the Lyric Theater, holds like 300 people. So that's quite an audience.
It holds about 380.
Yeah, that's quite an audience. So you're going to get a lot of feedback, and I'm sure we'll all love it. So thank you for agreeing to do this. Again, I'm very happy that you were able to definitely share the business part of this, and you know, again, with the pivot plan, I think there's almost no other industry that has to understand that better than anyone else, any other industry there is, because it's a daily pivot. It's not based on emergency circumstances. It's daily. And looking at yourself in the mirror and decide if that's what you want to continue to do. How can we find out more about, you know, what you do, your other projects? Where do we go to get that kind of information?
For now, you can go to my IG, and it's under the production company name, which is Legacyland Pictures.
Okay.
You can go to legacylandpictures.com. Right now, I just have the, of course, the countdown for the screener, but stay tuned for more on Legacyland Pictures, because that's where everything about the future movies, past movies, is going to live. So,
are you working on something else now?
I am always working on something else.
You want to do a news break now?
Oh, news break. Not necessarily just yet, but I'm always working on something that's groundbreaking, because like I like to think that I don't make movies, I make history. So so that's what I'm going to focus on, anything that makes history. So
please keep us informed of what you're doing, because we want to make sure we keep putting things out there that will help support what you're doing, because, you know, the more we build the film industry here, the better.
Of course.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. You too.
So everyone, I'm so grateful you had a chance to tune in with us today. As usual, I learned a lot. And again, I have an affection for the creative industry, because that's my world. And so I'm very happy we had a chance to really learn a lot more about how the industry works. I will be there Saturday. I hope many of you that are watching will be there Saturday, and we'll keep trying to let everybody know more about it. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you next week. By the way, we're going to have yet another guest at 5:30. Please stay tuned. You will see on our Facebook page and Instagram that guest. And definitely we're looking forward to having you join us again. Have a good evening, everybody.